What terrifying confession has someone told you while intoxicated? One time, an old acquaintance, F49, and I, M32, were drinking late into the night. She drank much faster than me, and before long randomly and drunkenly confessed to me the following: when her aging and sick mother, whom she despised, and was a ton of unappreciated work to care for, was left in her care, she intentionally withheld certain medications, and gave her too much of other ones with the plan, being to kill her off. It worked. She told her other siblings that the illness must have finally gotten to her, and she passed in her sleep. Since she was already old and sick, there was no autopsy. A minute later she snapped out of it and apologized profusely for telling me that, adding that I'm the only person she has ever told. This was about 6 months ago now. My brother and I were getting drunk one night because it was the weekend and we just wanted to get fucked up and play video games. We had done plenty of shots and plenty of drinks and we were the definition of fucked up. We were having fun playing some old WW zombies for nostalgia, and we paused it to grab some chips. As I was grabbing the saucer, he said to me that he had tried committing suicide about a month prior to this. He had taken some pills and they pumped his stomach and shit, and he told me the whole time he was thinking of me and how shitty and depressed I'd be if he had died, and that he'd never want to lose me. I told him I had also tried committing suicide a while ago, and I thought the exact same thing about him. We continued playing zombies while talking about everything under the moon, and we've been talking every day since, have never missed, and will never miss a day. We are both doing a lot better now, and we are both in therapy. It's nice having someone to talk to and trust about these things. My mom told me she wished she aborted me when I was 8 or 9 or so. She's doing better now after a long struggle with alcoholism. Our relationship is much better, and when I told her this a few months ago she hugged me tightly and keeps apologizing to this day. My brother was drunk, and he told me how he got sexually assaulted by our half-brother when he was 8. And that he knew that our half-brother assaulted me too when I was 5. I hadn't ever told my brother about my situation, so I was in shock. Was chilling with an older dude with whom I recently started working as a butcher in a grocery store. A couple of beers down, and he starts telling me he's been in prison for 17 years. Came out 2 years ago, and it's his first ever job at 64 years old. I got curious and asked him what happened, if it wasn't too private. Without hesitation, he simply answered, "I cut him down with an axe, this piece of shit." And now he's a butcher. Dude must really like his job, I guess. LMAO. Ages back I was helping a blackout drunk coworker to his apartment etc. He was needing to be carried 1 second and sprinting across the parking lot the next. As we're getting close to his room he starts breaking down. Why did I hit him? I shouldn't have run etc. Turns out drunk Digo is pretty convinced he hit a kid with his car one day. Sober Digo has no idea what he was talking about. My uncle said that my grandfather wasn't exactly a caring/loving father because of working in the coal mines. He said my pap was terrified every day because he didn't know if he was coming home or not cause he'd hear the mountains above him crack. A old co-worker of mine told me about how him and his friends killed a guy in the 80s who raped one of their sisters. He wasn't even drunk. He said they pulled up to his trailer out in the desert, honked the horn, and when the guy came out about 6 guys all opened fire on him. He said that way no one knew exactly who killed him. My ex in college told me once, when he was blackout drunk, that a few years prior, he and a bunch of other kids broke into a house to have a party. The family that lived there was on vacation or something, and were all gone. IDK how they picked the house, or knew it'd be empty, sorry. It's been like 12 years, and I'd forgot some details. They all got drunk and someone decided it would be fun to break a picture on the wall. Then someone else did too. Eventually it devolved into them all destroying the house. Absolutely everything they could. All the windows were broken. Broke the legs off all the chairs, and used them to beat holes into the walls. Ripped and stole clothing. Ripped or burnt all the family photos on the walls and shit. I don't remember all the stuff he said that they broke, but I remember him crying and saying that they ruined those people's lives and there's no way to make it right. I honestly think he was so fucked up that he doesn't remember telling me because we never mentioned it again. A friend of mine likes to drink a lot, but he knows he has a limit because when he goes over it, he becomes very talkative. He also doesn't date at all, and for a long time we all wondered why. He's a good looking guy, he's really nice, he's fun to be around when he isn't drinking, anyway, never wants to date. Well, one time he got absolutely shit-faced, and I found out why. It turns out that when we was a kid, he saw his aunt murder his uncle in cold blood. Ever since, he's been terrified of being alone with a woman and feels like he could never truly be safe around them. Hanging out with a couple of former roommates 20 or so years ago. One of them mentioned he found young people attractive, then clarified saying very young. Also never once hung out again. Not brutal or anything, but my mom admitted to breaking confidentiality to find my dad's birth parents despite him pleading not to. She laughed about it and thought it was the funniest thing about how mad my dad was. That was the day I realized my mom doesn't care about others. Was out drinking with some colleagues at a conference. We'd been at a club dancing and we were on the way back to the place we were staying. We were chatting about something, I think maybe guys not taking no for an answer, and one of the guys said I maybe raped someone once. Worst part is the guy was one of a pair of identical twins, and I'm not totally sure which one he was. An old friend I grew up with ended up messing around with the wrong crowd for a good few years, until they all fell out. 4 of them wearing balaclavas went to his door and stabbed him multiple times. When they left they forgot to shut the door and someone out walking the dog found him. After I found out about it a few weeks later, I was out drinking with some mates and a couple guys started talking utter rubbish about stuff until one of them said what he and his mates done to someone just weeks prior. Honestly shit myself when I put 2 and 2 together. Had a former friend tell me he killed his brother. Didn't help this was while we were trying to herd his drunk ass to the car as he was crying and yelling at the top of his lungs. Amazingly we didn't end up in cuffs, or at the very least get stopped and questioned. Come to find out his brother died of a brain aneurysm and that morning he prayed for something to happen to get him out of school that day. He always blamed himself for his brother's death and I get that to a degree. My brother got terribly drunk 2 years ago at Thanksgiving, like 7 or 8 Sam Adams, and he was fine at first, then he started sobbing, and I was the one to comfort him for more than 3 minutes. He confided in me about his suicidal thoughts, and how he fought with his friends about their relationships, and how happy they are, and wished he could have that too. Maybe fought is the wrong word, like he felt happy that they were happy, but was sad that he wasn't happy like that too. He said he was too scared to do it, because then I would be alone. It was the turning point, where I could finally get him to get on antidepressants. He also brought up something from when we were like 6. And he put gum in my hair, and we had to cut my hair off, and he was sobbing over this, calling himself a terrible brother, and that I didn't deserve him. I didn't even remember that happening, and I ended up with short hair anyways, so I don't really care. He's doing way better now, and hasn't ever gotten that drunk again. Love my brother, man. They didn't tell me this while they were drunk, but I think it fits here. I'm a volunteer at a nursing home. When one of the female residents was close to death, she confided it to me this. One time her husband cheated on her with the neighbor's wife. When the neighbor's husband found out, he was very upset and was going to physically hurt her husband. They worked out a deal where the neighbor's husband would not hurt her husband if he was able to return the favor. In essence, her husband agreed to let the neighbor have her in order to save himself a righteous beating. It gets worse. She later became pregnant and told her husband for the rest of his life that it was his, but she honestly believed it to be the neighbor's. Her whole life she was carrying this burden about her son and what her husband had done to her, both with the cheating on her and with the trading her off like a cow. It was truly a heartbreaking conversation. We were talking about Al Franken, and they said something along the lines of all guys fondle girls when they are sleeping. I used to touch my sister all the time. You could have heard a pin drop. We are no longer friends.